At several turns, Tim Steller's September 7th column in the Arizona Daily Star reads like a press release for the Tucson Police Officers Association, the local police union. The argument that prosecutors are too lenient, sentences are too short, and Tucson is less safe because people aren't being locked up long enough is a familiar TPOA refrain. It is also false and has been proven so again and again. Arizona has spent decades proving that longer sentences don't work. Our state hands down some of the longest prison sentences in the country. In fact, as the Prison Policy Initiative reports, Arizona locks up a higher percentage of its people than any independent democratic country on earth. If harsher punishment created safety, every town in Arizona, including our hometown Tucson, would be among the safest cities in America. Multiple analyses, most recently from Arizona State's Academy for Justice, show that people in Arizona convicted of offenses deemed violent receive sentences 25% longer, people convicted of drug offenses serve 40% longer, and those convicted of property crimes get sentences twice as long as the national average. So much safety, right? No. In fact, Arizona isn't safer. Because longer sentences don't address the underlying conditions: poverty, untreated mental illness, and a lack of stable housing and access to opportunity that drive people into the criminal justice system in the first place. And that's the real revolving door. People cycle in and out of jail not because any one prosecutor is too lenient, but because the system was built to punish desperation rather than confront it directly. Steller leans on the case of Daniel Hollander, who entered a school gym with a gun in the middle of a psychotic episode. A scary situation for parents, teachers, and kids alike. And he ended up with a short sentence. But the real pivot in Steller's column comes later, when he parrots TPOA's talking points over so-called prohibited possessor cases. Steller even calls prohibited possessor charges a useful way for police to get gang members and gunslingers off the streets. But useful to whom? Not to the people in Tucson whose lives have been shaped by poverty, segregation, and systemic institutional violence. Not to the families destabilized when a parent is repeatedly locked away. And certainly not to a community that wants fewer shootings, not more headlines. Useful in this context only applies to a police union that thrives on fear, bigger budgets, and political leverage, not on solving the problems that lead people to pick up a gun in the first place. Steller also points to 572 prohibited possessor cases filed by the Pima County Attorney's Office last year, claiming that around half were dismissed or pled down. And he treats that like evidence of leniency. But what it actually shows is how shallow the whole model is. Counting prosecutions and racking up prison years has been Arizona's playbook for decades, and it has failed. If we're measuring safety by case counts, well, we've already lost the plot. TPOA's revolving door rhetoric works because it shifts blame away from policing itself and away from political leaders who refuse to deal with root causes. The real reason these stories get repeated is because addressing mental health, housing, wages, and opportunity would shift power and resources away from police unions and politicians and put them in the hands of the community. And that's not what TPOA wants. If Tucson is serious about safety, it won't come from another round of harsh sentences. It will come from investing in people before they ever enter a courtroom. As a survey of people all across Tucson by our friends at Just Communities Arizona begs. When we finally achieve real safety, it will come in the form of housing security, treatment for those in crisis, real jobs that offer stability and prosperity, and programs that interrupt violence before it even starts. That doesn't make for an easy headline, but it's the only path to real safety. Tucson deserves better than recycled talking points about repeat offenders. We deserve solutions that actually work and leadership willing to put community needs ahead of political power.